Hello, adventurers. I am Dungeon Master Roy of Dark Alchemy. I am joined by my fellow Dark Alchemist, Scott, the Dead Professor.
Hello, everybody.
And today, all the way from New Zealand, I have Vahid of DiceLegenz.
Thank you so much for having me here, Roy. Scott, it's so nice to be here.
Awesome,
Welcome.
awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to talk about game mastering. We're going to talk about live plays. We're going to talk about world building. But first, we want to ask you a question. It is a Dungeons and Dragons channel. So can you share, Vahid, a Dungeons and Dragons story that is kind of funny, interesting, important to you?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it's important to me, but it's something that I've learned, which is, I'll tell you the moral of the story first, steal from Disney. Now, I didn't think that as a D&D player that would be part of the vernacular, but here we go. All right, two quick stories, and you'll see how they tie together. When we first launched our channel, we hired actors because anyone can learn to play a game, but not everyone can be a performer. Now, one of the cast members that we brought on, a wonderful woman named Raylene, when she was making her character, she didn't really understand some aspects. Basically, her personality came down to she was a dwarf and she had a chicken. And I thought, a chicken? Why a chicken? It turns out that chicken has had more fan art made of it than any character in the
Moana.
entire campaign, right?
Yeah, that's Moana.
Yeah, exactly. Fast forward, our second campaign. Our second campaign wasn't a heroic campaign. They were edgy, anti-heroes. They were unpleasant, like classic how in the old days of D&D, everyone made chaotic neutral characters, right?
Yeah.
So this were these guys. They were all not guys. Along the adventure, they came across a plague dog, a death dog, a two-headed monstrosity that when it bites you, it can kill you and infect you. And of course, what did they do?
Adopted it.
They adopted it! Of course, Scott. Of course they did. That dog was the only character in our entire second campaign that got character art made for it.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that. I love that.
So the moral of the story is, what I've learned is steal from Disney and always give your players an animal companion.
I love that. I love that.
I like
That
it,
is
yeah.
that's a pro dungeon master tip.
You see, that's why the Professor's Familiar is so popular.
That's what it is.
Yes, yes. Why don't you tell me about the familiar, Scott? Share it with the audience.
So the Dead Professor was basically a reborn character. He died in Strahd. I brought him back into another campaign, but he's semi-undead, and he's an artificer. And he came back, so he's also a warlock now, and that's how he came back. But in imp mechanical construction, so he's like a biomechanical imp. And I made some art for him, and everyone was like, "That's just the most horrific thing I've ever seen," and it's amazing.
Yeah, the art is horrific. So, Vahid, lots of questions for you. Let me start off here. A little D&D background, how long you've been playing. Some
Sure.
people just play, and now you're doing voice acting and shows. So how'd you get your start?
Yeah. I was born in a small university town in Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana Hoosiers. Go IU. And when in this kind of university environment, when I was 7 years old in 1978, a guy in the apartment building somehow knew about Dungeons and Dragons. And so he got us together and he said, let's play some Dungeons and Dragons. We didn't know what we were doing. He just got a piece of paper and he drew squares on them and would write things like 2 skeletons. And then draw another square next to it and say 3 skeletons. And we didn't have dice. It was all just completely fictional. And then later, seeing that we were so engaged in this kind of thing, my mother bought me in the midst of the satanic panic, bought me the red box set. And I've played Dungeons and Dragons with my friends and my brother and my sister all the way through. I'm the eldest of the family, so I became the forever dungeon master. And then, later on, I'm in the TV world. That's where I work in. And later on, a handful of years ago, me and some others decided to get together and form DiceLegenz and have a go making content, using those skills that we learned from our life in TV. And so I got some actor friends together and some people that did technical stuff, and we started doing DiceLegenz.
So we can find DiceLegenz on YouTube and Instagram and Twitch. That's DiceLegenz, DiceLegenz. And you also have your website, which has all your links, right? DiceLegenz.com. So that's where we can find you. Why did you decide to jump into then making the live content? Don't you have enough to do in your life in that video production? And, say, I want more work, and I want more work in the thing I'm already doing. Because as we explore, I do some photography, but as we explore photography, video, and content creation, we love it, but it's a lot of work.
Man, it's a lot of work. Well, why did we do it? That's a really good question. I guess because when I'm not doing this, I'm a musician, okay? So I'm used to having the things that I love be the things that I do for work.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, well, gosh, there's room for, whether we were right or not, probably not. We thought, oh, there's plenty of room for other actual plays, content in the world. And then it all exploded, and there's just a zillion actual play things and podcasts. Anyway, so that's kind of why we did it. Why did we do it? Anyway, but we've had a lot of fun. We've learned a lot along the ride.
Go ahead, Professor. You have something?
Well, I was going to say, for you, it was probably easier to roll right into having the film background and the music background and the acting friends and background. It was easy to roll right into it. Whereas for a lot of people who get into it, us included, all of that's a learning curve, figuring out video, figuring out sound,
Sure.
How many tracks do I need? What do I need to mix? And, that's been the learning challenge for us. Now, we happen to enjoy it, so it's been great that way. But I can see how you could fall right into it very easily. You already play the game. You already love the game. You love the recording. You love the acting side of it. So it all just blends together very easily.
So
and you
what
get to
we
do
were
good friends.
hoping, sorry, I interrupted you, Scott. Hey, so what we were hoping to do is we were hoping that because of our background in media, with being able to use like professional sets, lighting, cameras, sound, all that kind of stuff, by having a full crew in a studio, we felt, and we probably justified in this thought, that we'd be able to very quickly gain enough of a following that we'd be able to attract sponsors and make it financially viable.
Okay.
And indeed, we grew very quickly in the first year, and within the first 9 months, we got a message from Twitch saying we were in the top 1% of Twitch D&D streamers. And so we grew our Twitch audience. We thought we were going to be a YouTube channel, but then we grew on Twitch so much faster, and so we kind of changed our platform to being Twitch centric, and we grew really quickly there. And now we're kind of trying other things like podcasts and other things.
Did you find dual streaming on Twitch and YouTube as a D&D content creator was good, or you just switch totally to Twitch and then put the YouTube content up kind of as needed or as an afterthought?
Our initial plan was to be YouTube first, but since we were going to be recording it in one take without edits, that we might as well do it in front of an audience. That was our thinking, and that but it would always be destined for YouTube releases. But we found that our YouTube grew really slowly, and we weren't doing live streaming on YouTube at that time. We experimented later with YouTube streaming, and we have never found it of any use at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Our numbers are, when we do it live, is pathetic.
That was more like a kind of personal question. Let me do a quick little lightning bolt round here. I'm just going to ask you a couple of random questions. Lightning bolt round. Okay, Vahid. Favorite low-level monster?
Goblins, man, all the way.
You love them? They're good to throw at those low-level characters. You feel good about them?
Oh, look, they have everything going for them. Like players love hitting them and knocking them down.
Yeah.
They're mischievous, so you can throw traps in there.
Yeah.
You can play them sneaky or stupid.
Yeah.
And if it needs to be tougher, you just throw more in. If you want it to be easier, just make it a couple of them. And if they get captured, they're an NPC that can be, oh yeah, God, what are you gonna do with me now? There's just so much you can do with goblins.
You don't feel bad about beating them up.
That's right.
But
then
every
you can turn it on your players and make
right. And every new GM can do a goblin voice. It's the ultimate easy voice acting for a new game master.
Yeah. Do you have a forever class, Vahid? A class that you will play forever? Your favorite class for you? I know you're game master mostly, but your favorite class?
What ends up being my class is whatever's left over from the others, because I play so much D&D with the streaming and stuff that when I do my social game, I usually say, guys, you take whatever you want and I'll just fill the blank. What that's ended up being the last kind of 4 years is I'm the tank.
Oh, really?
I
always thought it'd be like the healer almost. You're the tank.
Yeah, no, I haven't been a healer ever in my entire D&D career, ever.
Clerics have gotten popular. People like playing clerics now.
Those spirit guardians, with them whirling around, the moment they get spirit guardian, they're spamming that and taking them out. No, they always want me to be they always want to do the, high damage rogues or the big spell guys. And so that's what I've been doing lately. Fighters.
Best spell in D&D.
Oh, you got to go fireball. Come on.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're playing against goblins, I guess so. Are the goblins in a perfect 20-foot circle?
Exactly.
Is that what you do for your players when you want to give them a birthday gift?
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, I like to describe the base goblin military formation as the blob. And so they're always coming in. They're dumb. No, look, fireball's just fun. The first time a player uses fireball, their eyes light up. It is a great. I don't know if you guys can remember the first time you used fireball. And if you can remember, it's a magical moment when you get to roll 8 D6s.
It's a lot. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then as I advanced in my dungeon mastering career, and people threw more and more fireballs, maybe not in the rules, but when they're in the dungeon and all of a sudden the fire starts to funnel back in different directions. And I think there was a rule for that for a while, but as a game master, I like to explore that and push that around to really mess with people. It's fun. It creates a scary situation.
I think that's where I first became the professor, because when fireball had an area of effect in cubic feet, and I had to sit down and do the math for how many squares it filled. All right, this is going down that hallway and going down that hallway and hitting that door.
The professor likes to crunch. Scariest monster you've thrown at your players?
Scariest monster. I think I'd probably have to go between either a fully powered lich, but that's hard to control. It's hard to maximize a lich. They have so many abilities. Or just classic ancient dragons.
Nothing wrong with that. It is called Dungeons and Dragons.
For a reason, right? They have to be scary.
Yeah. And at some point in a player's career, they should be fighting dragons. I mean, that should be kind of a goal. There's a lot of cool monsters, but you want to come across the dragons. And in some of the new books, the Dragon Delve books, they really encourage that. There's a wormling, there's an adult, and then there's like the ancient. So you'll get to fight them at all these different levels. Yeah. Is there anything?
I do have a question for you. I'm
go ahead, Scott.
Because it was one I had backed up. I know you guys are big fans of the 2024 edition, as are we. What's your favorite rules change?
Favorite rules change. I think the simplicity, how it's, oh my goodness. 3 things popped into my head simultaneously.
Listen, you're the game master. You can say all 3.
From a game mastering point of view, the simplicity of stealth, just if you're in fight, if you're in combat and a rogue, you need to get a 15 on your stealth roll. That makes it so much easier than having to figure out what all those monsters' passive perception is. Just knowing guys, you just need to get a 15. I love that simplicity.
Yep.
The optional rule that they've included, which I think the Professor DM,
Yep.
first of not rolling initiative, but just doing initiative in order, is something that we'd already been doing in DiceLegenz, but it's really cool that that got entered into the game. And then from a player point of view, the martial classes having weapon mastery is just a complete game changer.
I think
Sorry,
that's
that was
probably
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like the fighters now with those weapon masteries, and they added some good abilities where the fighters feel like they're still doing a lot. The past edition, it was just kind of a little bit boring.
Yeah.
Anything annoying that the players do that stand out that
Anything
you come
annoying
across?
that players do.
The players do. What annoys you? Is it
Gosh.
what's it called? Not vicious mockery, cutting words,
Oh,
or silvery barbs, silvery barb. Right there,
yeah,
like
man.
that.
Silvery barbs is annoying, and actually another one that is there's a halfling ability in Tasha's something about boundless luck or something, which gives not only the halfling rerolls on nat ones, but everyone in a 30-foot radius.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
That's a drama killer. I
Yeah.
mean, that just sucks the drama out of story. So I don't like that.
I feel the same way about silvery barbs.
Yeah, man.
Because the DM can't crit anymore. Or it's
Yeah.
almost impossible.
You'll notice it is not a spell in the 2024 rules.
Yes, it's true.
So yeah.
That was a little lightning bolt round. I appreciate that. We always like to try to put a lot of D&D content in. Yeah, I have a New Zealand question. You've been there a few years. Were you involved in Lord of the Rings?
Man, I wish. No, when Lord of the Rings came, people because I was in the TV world writing music, and people suggested because I did sound that they needed sound people. I live in the South Island of New Zealand, and they were filming. Their studios were based in the North Island, and so there was suggestions that I should do that, and I'd earn a lot of money. I had a baby, our first baby in the family.
Oh yeah.
The last thing I wanted to do, as cool as that would be, having a baby in the family was just cooler.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on that. That's always good to hear. It's always good to have
How old is the baby now?
26, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't do my math. Is the baby playing Dungeons and Dragons?
For real? Yeah. Runs regular groups.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's what you have to create more dungeon masters. You
That's
said there's a
awesome.
shortage. You got to create them.
That's the truth.
I love it. Have you come across the Flight of the Conchords? It's a New Zealand humor show. Have you heard
I
about that
love
show?
it. Yeah. I love Flight of the Conchords. When Flight of the Conchords came out, it's a kind of an interesting story because they approached funding here in New Zealand. We have like state funded media here in New Zealand,
Okay.
and they applied
I
for
didn't know.
funding and did not get it. And so it's kind of like this bone of a dramatic bone of tension and contention in our nation that they weren't able to get funding in New Zealand, but they were able to get a lot more funding in America. And,
Really? Yeah.
and it's kind of like, had it been funded here, would it have been the big international success that it was?
Yeah, I can't answer that. I just kind of found out about it. Well, so what's the D&D scene like in New Zealand in general? You're kind of in like a special world. You're doing video, you're doing voice acting, you're doing music, you're creating the content, you're actually hiring actors to be on a show. You're doing a podcast, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. The podcast is Dungeon Mastering Made Easy. We'll have those links down below, and that's in order to get some more people into being a dungeon master, so we can have this wonderful game keep going. But what is like the D&D scene in general like in New Zealand that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean it's a growing hobby all the time. When we first started our DiceLegenz company, the stats at the time was there's 50 million people that play it, and 40% are women, and 40% are below the age of 25, and that seems pretty consistent here as well. There's a huge resurgence of young people.
Cool.
And that old cohort, of which I am a typical member, right, of a European,
as are we,
45-year-old. I'm 50 now. 50. What am I? 50. Anyway, that is still exists, but there's a complete explosion of younger people taking up the hobby and making it their own.
Before I turn some questions over to Professor, let me ask you one question. And I always ask this one. Why do you think it's important for people, young people, people in general, to sit around a table in person, not on their phones, and storytell, just like our ancestors sat around the campfires and did storytelling? Do you think that's important in this modern world, and kind of why is it important? What do you get out of that?
Yeah, Roy, I think that's at the heart of why Dungeons and Dragons is important, is this, I think, story and connection. Those are these two things I think you've just kind of really put your finger on. First of all, story is an essential aspect of human experience, of every single culture. And through story, we learn so much. We learn how to be a good citizen, right?
Yeah.
We learn morals. We learn good things to do, bad things to do. Guys, don't try to fly too close to the sun, right?
Yeah.
We learn, if you do this, you're going to get hurt. If you do that, if you go into the woods at night, that witch is going to grab you and put you in the oven, But we also learn how to be heroic, how to be brave. We hear these stories of what it's like to be a model citizen. And it's essential for us to hear that vicarious learning through stories is essential. And then the other thing is a group of people coming together around a table, creating the stories. It becomes theirs. Our imagination and our reality are so entwined as part of our psyche. They're almost indistinguishable. Like, you guys would definitely have had this experience where you can imagine your Dungeons and Dragons game from 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, man. It's powerful. And so when a group of people come together, the shared experience and the bonding that comes of that, the friendships that form over years and years and years, I mean, it's really just hard to replace that with anything else.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well, if you ask everyone.
Yeah. So, let's go.
I think you're going to find they're very, very close to yours. Yeah. So we've talked about this on multiple shows. So we've talked about, we can be at a barbecue in the summer, sitting outside in the pool or around a fire pit or something, and we're telling a story about what happened 3 weeks ago, but we're telling it like it happened. It's a memory of something we experienced. It's no different than telling the story about the night we went out and did axe throwing, or we went bowling or played pool or something. It's a story about what we did. It becomes a core memory, just like any real experience does, because to us it is a real experience. We sat around a table, we were with our friends, we solved problems, we defeated the bad guy. We did all the things that I think aspired to do when we were 8, 9, and 10 years old and didn't quite know how to do it. Yeah. And now we know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me,
I think we're right in sync with that.
For me, a couple of things come to mind: shared experience, challenges, overcoming challenges together as a group. But I have to say, Vahid, we sometimes laugh so hard we spit either our soda or a whiskey out. Some of the experiences or some of the situations we get in are just absolutely hysterical, and we'll talk about that for a while. And besides the actual humor, is in our world, our modern world, we can go places. We can travel to Florida, New Zealand, Australia. We can travel, and there are things to see. But the things we see in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, the castles, the dungeons, the elven forests and stuff, especially if we have maybe some miniatures out and some terrain or some pictures, or the game master is really getting a good description, you kind of go into that story and it's like you were there. And those places you can't find in the real world. maybe you get a little glimpse at Disney World on a ride or something like that. But
Yeah.
you know, the places I've been have been pretty amazing. Just like if you're reading the Lord of the Rings book, and the author takes you to Rivendell and these places that you can't even imagine, and draws you in. So I think that's it. It's the humor and going to these magical places.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, Scott, do you want to jump in with any questions here?
Sure, I do have a couple questions. I know you do have a Kickstarter coming up for more orcs, which I love the idea of. I think we've got that somewhere. But something you talked about in it is old school line art. I talked about it in one of your podcasts, and we're huge fans of. I always talk about the Paladin in Hell picture from the original Player's Handbook.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, right. It's just, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can see it. You can see the image without ever having to pull it up again. You know it in your head because you've looked at it so many times, and you've gone similar fashion with the line art there. And just what drove you that way? Is it just the passion from the old school?
Yeah, I love line art. It's there's two reasons. Well, from a practical point of view, it's you know, the boring part is that it's cheaper, right? You know,
Sure.
but it's more than that. Like old school D&D books, if anyone hasn't seen the original, like, first edition illustrations, exactly as you've said, Scott, those line art images were just so captivating. And I love the high contrast, simplicity that you can express with line art. And in some ways, it leaves more to the imagination. And that's what Dungeons and Dragons is about. We provide some stimuli. You know, we say, describe the story. We might even have a picture to give you an idea, but then you're creating it in your mind. And so I wonder if that's something why I like line art, because it hints at something, but it doesn't show you the whole thing. You know, I don't know, maybe that's overly complicating something.
Not at all. I understand it completely. That actually leads me into the next question. You did a interview with Kelly from Dork Tales, and you asked him about describing NPCs, and he immediately went to using a celebrity. You know, who does the Death Knight sound like? And I think he went right to Christopher Walken. He was like, the knight walks in, and it's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
But again, automatically bringing the imagery, and I just thought that was a great comment from I think that was one of your Dungeon Mastering Made Easy posts, and that was just a great DM tip, I guess, Roy.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, how do you describe someone? You know, we can say he's 6 foot tall with brown hair and dark eyes, or you can say he looks like whoever you want it to be.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a great tip that came out of one of your Dungeon Mastering Made Easy shows.
It's such a nice shorthand, right? If you say, yeah, the head of the Merchant Guild looks like Helen Mirren, but
Yeah.
with a long blonde wig. Or, you know, if you say Meryl Streep is playing this character today, you know, instantly you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice thing. I mean, Kelly suggested that. I had not. I think I've unconsciously done that a couple of times, but not as a deliberate tool and trick. I thought it's a really clever one.
Yeah. And I thought it was great for, you know, for new dungeon masters like you're aspiring to help, is, you know, if they're not good at voices, he sounds like Christopher Walken.
Yeah,
everyone can immediately put that in their head and kind of get what you're trying to say. So, you know, a voice is a hard thing to describe sometimes for a dungeon master, especially if they don't do voices. So saying it sounds like this person is a great shorthand.
So let me jump in there with my little dungeon master tip. I love the idea of celebrities, but in my own life, I actually sometimes make the NPCs somebody I know. And it could be, you know, the guy at the deli clerk, or maybe somebody I worked with in the past. And although the other players might not know that particular person, I know them well enough. I can do their mannerisms. You know, if somebody I worked with in the past.
Clever.
Yeah, because I can imitate them, especially with somebody annoying, like in their mannerisms. And Or it could be somebody everybody knows. Maybe it's everybody has the same mechanic, and he comes in, he kind of like, hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? What do you need to fix? That could be a merchant, and everybody kind of puts that in their head, and it gives you the ability to kind of have that preloaded. Maybe just an idea of something to throw out there.
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, cool.
Because we're in the same lineup.
Yeah,
I
Vahid.
love
So, I mean, you might have musician friends that somebody knows or something like that, and like the drummer all of a sudden is a character in there. It's like, wait, is that based on the drummer? Because he's acting crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I know Professor has more questions, but Scott led into Dungeon Mastering Made Easy. This is a new podcast that you're doing. So I thought the statistics for Dungeon Masters was 1 in 10 people. 10% is maybe Dungeon Masters. If you look at the global D&D community, I don't know if that number is right. I could just be making up a statistical lie, but it seems to be pretty low.
Yeah, that's right. And we've heard for a couple of decades now what they refer to as a dungeon master shortage, which sounds so much more serious than it is. But this idea that a lot of people want to play D&D, but most of them just want to be players. And sometimes that's because they enjoy the thrill of putting themselves in the character's shoes and going on a heroic journey. But often it's because they feel inadequate or intimidated. And unfortunately, the rise of shows, including shows like DiceLegenz, right, actually makes that harder for people.
Yeah.
Because they see these, I've heard it described as the Matt Mercer effect. They see people for whom their entire career, but the majority of their income comes from putting on a show that has the backing of a full technical team. They have a writer's room. They have someone who does their minis for them. Matt puts things together, of course, but they have people, right? And so they have people that are playing music in the background, and so all of a sudden, people that have come in within the last 10 years are seeing this as the standard of what a dungeon master is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's
intimidating.
Unachievable, right? You cannot achieve that.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea of our podcast is, sorry, Scott, you go, please.
No, it's very true. It's something we've commented on when we go to cons. The different level of table prep and players and what they see and what they achieve. Like we say we're very spoiled at home. I have a game room in my house that was built literally for Dungeons and Dragons. We have closets full of minis and terrain. We put it on the table. It's always very immersive for us. And then we go to a con, to a game we're paying to play, and it's a piece of graph paper with a dry erase marker and some dice as miniatures. So for us, it's always kind of a shock in the system, in the same way that when that new player comes into a game and they've only ever seen Brendan running a game or Matt Mercer running a game or even the Dungeon Dudes, all these guys who have fairly good games online, they that's what I expected. And then they sit down and it's the guy with, a piece of graph paper and the dice. And we all started that way. You started with your, drawing a box and writing 2 skeletons, and we were no different. So it is that disparity of what the consensus is normal, and then what people can achieve.
Yeah. So the whole idea for our podcast, Dungeon Mastering is Easy, is to have a topic every week, a short topic. They're only 25-minute episodes where we deal with one aspect of dungeon mastering to demystify, to remove barriers, and to give easy and inspiring ideas so that both new and experienced dungeon masters can more confidently step into the arena, right? That's what we want. We want more people to say, dude, I can do this, or I'm at least going to give it a shot. And we hope that our podcast series will be helpful for people with that.
And we'll put those links down below. We can find you. The website is DiceLegenz with a Z. Links will be down below for that. All your social links on the actual website, links to Instagram, links to Twitch, links to YouTube, and links to the podcast, Vahid?
Yeah, and everything is at DiceLegenz. And I should probably also mention that it's LEGENZ because I'm from New Zealand, and New Zealand puts an NZ on the end of everything, which is why we're DiceLegenz.
Okay, cool. Well, links that's a good tip, and links will be down low for that. We have the Dungeon Mastering Made Easy up, so let me ask you a question. This is a good one. It started as a little conversation between me and the professor. We're making our own world called Erendor. We're using Legend Keeper. We threw the rice down on the map, and we did the rice map.
Love it. Yeah, man. Awesome.
And I took my hand in the middle. I just clawed it, and I made mountain ranges in the middle. Like that's where the apocalypse happened. So now we're creating a world, and we're in a city, and we're level 7. DM Evanson, shout out to DM Evanson. He's hunting rabbits, or maybe deer. He's upstate New York. DM Evanson on Instagram, DM_Evanson, EVENSEN. So shout out to Dave. Good luck hunting. We're in a city of 100,000 people. We're level 7. In that city, how many level 1 players are there? Oh, sorry, how many 1-level characters are there? How many level 5, 10, 15, 20? So do we expect to have any level 20 characters in the city like that? Or are there a lot of level 1? So did you ever think about that, Vahid, kind of what the ratio is of people? Because we've been not struggling, but we've been exploring this question, and we need to have a whole episode on it.
I think the first question before answering that is, there's a scaling of fantasy level like Lord of the Rings fantasy is probably like a 3 out of 10 on the fantasy epicness rating, right?
So you're saying magic level, the level of
magic level, or magic tech level, something like that, right? Like Gandalf scares away Nazguls with a daylight spell. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Right? He does not throw a fireball. He doesn't throw lightning bolts. He can't go invisible. He cannot do a second level spell. Right?
It's useless.
Yeah.
But he can hold off a Balrog.
Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that.
Yeah.
It took him. How long did it take him to fight a Balrog? It took him like a week to fight. A week. Nobody was hitting each other.
Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? So it's like a low magic level, and then you've got something like the World of Warcraft movie, where everyone's flying on a griffin. They got massive rubies embedded in their swords. Yeah. They're not just opening a portal the size of like a 10-foot square portal. They're opening a portal that can allow an entire city to walk through. Right? It's like
20 out of 10.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And so I think it depends on the city. It depends on your magical scale. So in the DiceLegenz world, we've deliberately said it's a low magic setting. It's higher than Lord of the Rings, but it's not. So we've deliberately said that in our big city of 1 million people, which is the biggest settlement in the entire planet, there are 2,000 people that are registered to be able to cast magic.
Oh, cool. 2,000 out of 1 million.
Out of 1 million. So and so it has worked out that by the time our characters got 7th level, they were pretty much near there weren't a lot of ordinary citizens that were of the same level or higher than them, But I don't know.
I like that.
I'd be interested to know how you guys do it with your 100,000. I think level one. No, you go. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go ahead. You were going to say something about the level. Go ahead.
In the DiceLegenz world, because it is a low magic setting, 7th level characters in our world would be big hitters in 100,000 population.
Yeah.
So it is a high magic world, and by high magic we mean magic is commonplace. So a well-to-do family would have some contraption. Like my character bought a teapot that every day at tea time made hot tea and brought it to her mother as a present.
Love it.
and that's a common, that's not uncommon. It's hundreds of golds, which your average person is not going to get, but it's available in the world, and people take time to make that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's that type of high magic world.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think we've come down to the fact that if we were looking at the 100,000 person city, maybe there's 2 or 3 people that are level 20. And that's the head of the Wizards Guild, the highest priest in the city, and maybe some super fighter. And then it goes down, but still a steep curve. There's not many more at 15. 10 starts to fan out. 7, maybe there's 1,000 7th level people or something like that.
So we're slowly becoming famous and more powerful at 7.
Right.
And Dave is running a good campaign. He's doing all homebrew and stuff in Wrong World. So it's a lot of extra work.
Way more politics than we ever envisioned.
It's the age of secrets, and we're all telling the truth. So it's fun stuff. So Vahid, let's talk about theater of the mind versus miniatures on the table. How do you kind of run it? What do you like? I know there's no right or wrong answer. You don't need any miniatures. You could do all theater of the mind and have a perfectly wonderful campaign. We personally like the tactical stuff, and almost it becomes like a miniature war game where some of our players they're counting each box. We even have like these little Scott just printed these little range things up so you can be like, oh, he's exactly 30 feet away if I want to get to him. So
cool.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Our show, when we did our show, one of the things we decided was we wanted to be physically around a table. Yep. And we wanted to use miniatures. We wanted to use terrain.
Yep.
And because there's just so many good things about it. Yeah. You can create a room, a pit, a forest. You can create anything if you're doing it physically in front of people in an instant, right? If they go someplace that you don't have in mind, which of course our players on our show do all the time because they're creative, brilliant souls, it doesn't take long to say, all right, pull out the walls, pull out the, or, if what we used to do is I've got a big board for my home games when if I don't have all my minis, I've got just a big board and you use pencils and for walls or, I think having physical things, that's my favorite by far.
Yeah.
Cool. Of course, you do theater of the mind sometimes, and I do a lot of pro DMing as well online using like Roll20 and that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow,
and
cool.
I use digital maps for that, and I love it. I love the digital maps, but it kind of ties you down in a way, because after you've spent 3 hours making a map, you don't want to admit it.
You want to use it,
but you want to use it, right?
Yeah.
And you want to use it a couple of times, and so
you push those players on the train and say, get on the railroad, we're going to this town. That's it, Railroad City.
And it brings us back to a story, and I'm still sorry for our DM Dave. He set up a whole map on the table. It was absolutely gorgeous. Basically asked us one question, and he was like, okay, and literally just swept the entire map away because we picked something else. And he was like, just gonna run with it. And I personally just felt so bad. I'm like, he just spent 45 minutes before the game setting up this entire map. And we weren't sure what led there, but we made the other decision, took the left, and just swept the map away. And
Vahid, let me tell you a quick story about DM Dave Evanson. He is totally open to go whatever way you want, right? He's a good game master. He writes a story and he has ideas, but we want to go a different direction. But once in a while, he'll throw something in there. I'll say to Scott, I feel like he really put a lot of effort into this one story thing. I think we should kind of go with it, right? And he's like, no, you don't have to. But I'm like, I see painted miniatures. I see it. Matt, I said, let's go with it. And I got to say, a couple of times I did go with it. I regretted it because it was horrible. Like, he's like, you didn't have to go there. I'm like, dude, why did you write it? That was horrible. That was sheer torture, But he's like, well, so something I wanted to try. So I don't know. So now I'm torn. I'm torn if we should go with it or not. I mean, if he puts the effort in, I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. What do you think, Scott?
No, it is. And I mean, and he asked us a question one day. We were talking to somebody who was going to teleport us, and they looked at us and they went, "Cold or dark?"
Oh
And
yeah.
we're like, "What?" And Roy and I think, both said dark, and everyone else in the group said cold. And he's like, "Great, okay." He cast a teleport, and we were in the Arctic. We were in
Yeah.
far
Yeah.
north.
Yeah.
He was
It was
betraying us the
horrible.
whole time, and it was whether he was sending us to the Arctic or to the Underdark.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
He just wanted to know
Yeah.
where he was going to screw us. So
Scott, did you have any other questions about the
I do have one more question. So I was looking at your YouTube videos of your live plays,
Yeah.
and unless I'm misreading it, your older episodes used to be like 2 to 3 hours, and then in your current Bard campaign, quick 30 minutes.
Did you Vahid, did you hear that? I think we're losing Scott a little bit. Scott,
I got him.
little connection check.
Yeah. So the question of notice that our first campaigns were all 3-hour multi-hour. And then more recently, we've done a campaign which are much shorter, 20 to 30-minute episodes. And so what we did at the beginning of this year, we thought we'd try an experiment. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a Dungeons & Dragons channel called Viva La Dirt League D&D.
I love Viva La Dirt League, yeah. Yeah, they do all sorts of stuff. They're amazing.
Yeah, they're great. So their Dungeons & Dragons format is a 25 to 40-minute format where they record, and then that provides content for the next 4 to 6 weeks,
It's so funny you said. I was just thinking about that today because I want to do some episodes too. If you film over 4 hours, just break into an hour episode, and then you have a month, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. But go ahead. I love that.
So we thought we'd have an experiment with that format and did a show called Bards of Aratai. We did a Kickstarter around it. It was successfully funded and all that kind of thing. But it just hasn't had the views that we were wanting on YouTube. And so it was wonderful from the Kickstarter point of view, and we were able to, in the process, also make like a companion book for it, which has some, kind of information about the city and all that kind of stuff, and some optional rules and things like that's the one right there, and it was successfully funded, and that was great. But the afterthought, the book actually ended up being more successful than the main thing, the show. It just hasn't had the views that we wanted. So that was a kind of a learning for us that we actually successfully make book content quite well. So we're actually turning a focus onto that now.
Do you think people in general enjoy Kickstarters and D&D book content? Or do you think it's becoming like overly saturated? D&D itself, the company, used to, or Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, I think Scott was talking about this 3 or 4 years ago. They put out like 50 books, and last year they put out like 8, whatever the number was. Yeah. They used to put out a lot more books, so people are still hungry to have these different books.
Yeah, and what I've noticed is that Kickstarters are still getting funded, but we had the benefit of getting some advice from a UK company that focuses on Kickstarters and giving support to people that do Kickstarters, and learned a couple of things around the mathematics of when to launch and basic things around this, basically what you need to do to get your thing on Kickstarter doesn't necessarily mean you have to launch right away. So like that, you mentioned before that we've got a You Need More Orcs Kickstarter, which is going. And so basically what we've done is we're gaining interest. So like at the moment, it's only got 71 followers. You can't fund a book with 71 followers, but it's slowly growing, it's gradually growing as we're writing the book in the background. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we've commissioned the initial art, and now while it's gaining following, we're able to finish the book. So by the time that has gained enough followers to launch it, we can launch it and be guaranteed that it will be funded. There's some interesting formulas that pretty much guarantee that your Kickstarter will be successful. And it all comes down to the number of followers you have in proportion to the budget that you're seeking.
I like it.
And I
So
feel
let's
like
take a
you're
look at this.
getting- One second, I'm
Go,
sorry.
Scott.
I feel like you're going to get valuable feedback pre-launch from the people
Yeah.
who are seeing your preview page. Like I think I saw somebody comment like, "I hope they're big burly orcs and not, the watered down orcs of 5th edition." It's just
Yeah.
an interesting comment somebody made, and that I think was the direction you were going. Is orcs are not necessarily the same as they used to be, and some people still want that type of orc, and both can exist.
And this is a bit of a distraction, perhaps, but we, when doing this book, look, orcs there's kind of 3 main ways that people use orcs in a D&D setting. Either, number 1, they are inherently evil. In other words, Lord of the Rings orcs. They're not even born from a mother, they're spawned, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They are inherently evil. There is no redeeming qualities. They are created for the sole purpose of destroying the race of men, right?
Yep.
And then the next way that orcs are used is that they are not inherently evil, but they're so culturally different that they clash because they have this military expansionist approach that values might and powerful decisive leadership and expanding territory, which causes problem. And then you've got the third one, which is that they're part of basically the equivalent of a modern fantasy cosmopolitan society, right? Those are these kind of 3.
Right.
And a lot of old school gamers really dislike that third one of that it feels kind of fluffy to a lot of old school folks. Whereas a lot of new people think that the first approach is prejudicial. So in our book, we confront that right at the beginning, say, look, orcs are awesome. Behind dragons, they're probably the second most well-known monster in the world. We need to embrace them. You need to put them in your books. They can be done one of these 3 ways, but they're still cool, no matter which way you use them.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that came from video games, right? Orcs in 1st edition D&D were that evil foil race. If you met an orc, it was a bad guy, and you were going to fight it. There was no talking; there was just fighting. And then you had kind of the World of Warcraft evolution, where orcs just became different. They were not anti-human. They were competing for the same resources.
Yes.
And then you have kind of the 5th edition 2024 version where they're just cosmopolitan. They're another accepted race. But you have that kind of evolution over time.
Yeah.
And let's
sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's okay, Vahid. Go ahead.
And I think that different stories suit different approaches, right? In the same way that drow, some stories really suit that traditional approach that drow are these embittered, enslaving, horrible creatures, and then other stories suit they're just a bunch of elves that live underground and they're all cool just like anyone else, so it depends how you want to tell the story.
And it depends on the cosmology of your world. And elves were that way because that was their origin story. Their goddess was turned into a demon queen and they became evil. And that was just the cosmology of the world.
Yeah, like in our current society, and we don't like to get into politics and stuff here, but in our current world, can we just have some bad guys, so we can be heroes? And whether that bad guy is an evil dragon, an undead, an orc, a drow, we need some bad guys. We got to beat up bad guys, and we got to not feel bad about beating up those bad guys, right? Throw some monsters at me that are not like just slimes or if that's what you want. And if you want to play a different way, fine. But some of us still want some bad guys and want the Lord of the Ring orcs. Let's take a quick look at the Scent Sniffer. It's not often we interview a game master, dungeon master on, and we actually have some stats. Once or twice we were able to talk about somebody created a monster that had some stats we could talk about. Vahid, you and other people created all these new stats for 5e and 2014.
So this book, the You Need More Orcs book, my brother and I have created 20 orc types, completely new, and there are some of them right there on your screen. And each of those has 3 subtypes: grunts, group leaders, and sub bosses. So there's a total of 60 unique stat blocks. And so the idea is that we wanted there to be variety, and we wanted to surprise players, because at the moment, the orcs in the 2014 Monster Manual, they're cool, but there's only a couple of varieties, and once you've done them, and the only way to make it more difficult is throw more at them. We wanted them to be different and scary and unpredictable, so you have no idea what you're coming against.
Yeah. So we fought some monsters recently, and being longtime players, we know a lot of resistance or vulnerabilities and how stuff works. And we were just fighting a monster recently, and Dave was running it. He's like, "Oh, this guy isn't immune to the blinding condition. That's weird. He's a fire elemental." You figure he wouldn't be worrying about, getting blinded. It should have a kind of seeing beyond that. So it's nice either to, as a game master, go through the book and the monsters you're fighting and add some additional resistances, vulnerabilities, or change maybe what they're resistant or vulnerable to, and some abilities, or go out and have a whole new book, and you can pull out that book and be like, okay, the players have never seen this unless they back the Kickstarter. I hope they all do. But for the most part, they might not have read it already. So if we scroll down to the Scent Sniffer, Grunt, a humanoid, let's go through this. I'll read off the beginning stats, and then maybe you could tell me about the traits. Grunt is what level? Grunt is the base level one?
Yeah, grunts are the lowest.
Okay. He's sitting on armor class 14 wearing leather, +5 initiative. Pretty good on initiative. 14 hit points, 30 feet speed. Nothing to really write home about there. High dex, strength 16. High dex of 16, but a basic strength of 10. So really the dex is the only thing that stands out. A little vulnerable in charisma. +5 perception, +5 survival. A huge dark vision range of 120 feet. Talk about the fast reaction. +2 on initiative rolls. So he has +5 initiative and another +2 to his roll.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is we wanted the orcs to not just all be strength and con, right?
Okay.
We felt that an orc civilization of any of those three types that we talked about, inherently evil, culturally different, or cosmopolitan, that there'd be variety. And so we wanted there to be some orcs that would be the trackers of the groups. And that's what these scent sniffers are. These are the trackers that they're dexterous, they're jumping around from rock to rock, they're following. And so we wanted them to have fast reactions and this second ability, pinpoint accuracy. Their base damage isn't as much as a standard orc, which does I think a D12, but they have this pinpoint accuracy. Once a turn, they can do an extra 1d6 damage to a weapon, and so to kind of they're still scary, right?
Yeah.
But they're just not smashing you with a big double axe.
So I did notice, we'll get down to the weapons in a minute. Pinpoint action talked about sniff them out, advantage on perception or survival checks to find hidden creatures or track. So those hiding thieves are going to have a little bit tougher time with that perception advantage.
I'm impressed that you pulled that out, because that was actually mechanically exactly what this was about, right?
Well, with there was a bonus action.
That's right. The whole idea of the scent sniffer is you put one of them in a group of orcs, and it's like a foil to the rogues.
Yeah.
It makes the orcs so much more intimidating, just having one of these dudes in here that knows where can say, "Hey guys, the rogue is hiding behind that tree."
Yes, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I also like the light crossbow. You're letting these orcs use the weapon masteries. Not all NPCs can use weapon masteries. I don't think.
No,
Professor, does that sound right?
Yeah, no, they don't all, and this is great. Again, like you said, you mix one of those in, or maybe you have a party of 2 or 3 trackers, scent sniffers, and they start opening up with crossbows and hitting everybody with slow, and that's just more.
Yeah, they're not getting away. You're running, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I like the slow. Adrenaline surge, bonus action, dash, full movement, and gain 2 temp hit points. So they're giving them a bonus action 60-foot run.
Yeah. So bonus action. I think that might be a typo.
Full movement is not.
If the character has done I think the bonus action should be yes. I need to look at
full movement might be right. Yeah.
And that would give him the extra 30 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
extra
yeah,
30
sorry.
feet. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they could take a full action 60 and then take a bonus action 30, get
And then
90.
they
It's like a
get
rogue.
points. So, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're-
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I love the I can smell you. Sniff them out, bonus action, make a perception check. So
Exactly. Where are you
that-
hiding,
that-
Rogue? I can smell them. They're over there behind that rock.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So let's finish up, Vahid, with a little bit about how is your voice acting helped running your dungeon mastering, or has your music been involved in any of that?
Yeah. So voice acting really has been a side benefit of working in the TV industry in New Zealand, where because I'm a musician and a sound engineer, I worked for a place that they constantly needed people to do voices, and so I would just be called in.
Oh,
And that's really helpful for Dungeons and Dragons. Having said that, I'm not good with accents.
okay.
I've never been good with accents. And so something I say to new dungeon masters is, and new players is, you don't have to do a voice, you don't have to do an accent. You can if you want,
Yeah.
but you don't have to.
Yeah.
And so I think what I've really learned from voice acting is, even if you don't change your voice, you can do a whole bunch with just how low you speak or how high you speak and the
Mhm.
speed of delivery. So to make something intimidating, you just speak a lot slower.
Yeah.
You know, speaking fast doesn't sound intimidating at all for some reason. It sounds like you're nervous. So
Yeah,
the
exactly.
speed of delivery is a big, you don't have to put on a voice, you just change how fast you're talking. And
I
all
love
of a
it.
sudden, you're either got a nervous shopkeeper who really, really needs to move some product really quickly, or you've got the orc leader who has you in his sights, and you
Yeah.
are going to die.
I like that. And that sets the tone. I like to share a dungeon master tip with you that I use, because I'm not great with voices too. Sometimes you might come across a NPC, a character that speaks a different language. We use dwarf, for example, and maybe nobody speaks dwarf and there's no comprehend languages. So instead of trying to make a dwarf language, I'll just say dwarf, 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 gold, dwarf, 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 dagger.
I
And
love
then you're
it.
like, and then like, oh wait, he said I understood the gold part because maybe that came up, or elf, 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 water, elf, 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 water. And it's like, wait, I understood the water part. Maybe he wants us out of the water, into water, and it gives them a little bit of clue. I don't know, just maybe something people can use. I don't know.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's really fun.
yeah. So, Professor, any parting questions? We've had Vahid here for an hour. We appreciate. I'm amazed at the magic of technology that we can talk to you from across a vast ocean of time and space. You're in the future. You're in Friday. We're in Thursday. So this is really a magic
He's in
portal
tomorrow.
to talk to an amazing person.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was great, Vahid. I'm really loving the Dungeon Master podcast. I love those episodes. Great little tidbits. You've had some great guests on it. I loved some of the stuff you did with No Man. She's fantastic. I really knew her from her puns, but listening to her talk about running the game was great. So, some good guests.
And Vahid, with that Kickstarter, if we order that orc book when it comes out, that ships everywhere in the world.
Yeah. We're going to be using Drive-Through RPG for
Okay,
the
for the PDF.
physical. So we'll be doing PDFs, and then for the physical books, we'll be using their print-on-demand service, which means that we will avoid tariffs.
Yeah, it's always an issue in the world. Those dwarves have drawn a line. They want to get their gold and their gems out of us, huh? I'll tell you,
Yes.
those greedy dwarves.
We don't need to, and I'm not going to go into the politics of all that stuff, but
No, we're not political here. We're just saying people love their
I
gold.
complain about it regularly, Vahid, because I live it every day for work. So,
yeah. I one of our friends posted something. Give the dragon more gold, and it works better somehow. I forget what the pun was. So, but anyway, Vahid, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us here at Dark Alchemy. All your links will be down below. We have once again your DiceLegenz, that's with nz.com, and we can find you on Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. But Twitch is kind of your mainstream. You can find myself, Scott, the Dead Professor, and myself at Dark Alchemy LTD on all the socials. That is going to be on YouTube and on Instagram. We're not on Twitch much, but maybe we'll add that. DM Evanson is out rabbit hunting, but you can find him on Instagram at DM_Evanson. And once again, Adventurers Want to subscribe today. We're trying to grow our channel. We broke 500. You can find us this weekend, this Saturday, in 2 days. If I post this episode tomorrow, otherwise it'll be in the past. We'll be at Stravicon. We're running a little live show there. And that's about Vahid, any parting words of wisdom from New Zealand or from what's the name of your world?
Aratai.
Any parting words of wisdom from the world of Aratai?
My parting words of wisdom are not so much wisdom, but encouragement that if you're a player of Dungeons and Dragons, have a go being a dungeon master as well. And if you've never done it at all, have a go anyway. You know, there's so many resources. It's the best time ever to become a dungeon master. So just go for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. We'll end the recording now. You can stay in the green room 1 minute, and we'll have a little chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Roy. Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for coming.
Right,
Have a great day.
Bye.